I made a video only a few weeks back where I told you guys that Apple Intelligence was a scam, and I told you guys to just stay away from it as much as you could because paying $1,000 plus for a new iPhone 16 with an Apple Intelligence that does nothing that Apple promised wasn't a good idea. Lo and behold, only a few weeks after that video, it turns out Apple are currently being sued for this exact thing. And I'm here to speak all about it so you guys can know what's actually going on. So as I said, Apple are currently going through a class action lawsuit that was filed only a few weeks ago about this very thing that I mentioned a few weeks back. And it's that people are now realizing that everything that Apple promised for the new Apple Intelligence and Siri isn't even there yet. So people like myself that use Siri a lot, which I'll admit I don't love Siri, I mentioned that in that exact video, but I do use it a lot and I do think there is some use to it. But the fact that they said that it was completely new and improved just isn't true. And now people are realizing that what Apple offered isn't anywhere near the release date. So people are paying $1,000 plus for a flagship iPhone 16, hoping to get all of these new Apple Intelligence features when they aren't even ready and they're not getting any of them. And due to this, Apple finally got sued and there's now a lawsuit going on. Apple did promise a lot of things with Apple Intelligence, and like I've said many times now, they just didn't deliver. When I first got my iPhone 16 and I tested out Apple Intelligence to see how good it really was, I was blown away by how bad it actually was. So much so that I had to make an entire video on it stating how much Apple Intelligence was a scam. And obviously not to toot my own horn here, but I did tell you guys Apple Intelligence is a scam, so don't fall for it. And well, I guess the people that watched that video, I'm hoping they didn't end up buying one. And if they did, well, I'm sorry, but let's just hope that Apple Intelligence does get fixed in the near future and that you actually get what you paid for. Apple ended up promising us a much more conversational Siri, among other things, which is something I touched up on that previous video, and I mentioned how she isn't any more conversational than the previous old Siri was, and it's pretty much just the same. They also promised a really big list of things that honestly I now see is crazy how they even promise such things and aren't delivering on it, but oh well, here we are. They promised us that Siri would be able to go into different apps, be able to get context clues from that, and then be able to answer a prompt or a question you gave it. They said Siri would be able to go into different apps, and let's say, for example, your mom has a flight on Tuesday or on Wednesday or something similar. You would be able to ask it, "Hey Siri, when is my mom's flight?" And Siri should have been able to say, "Oh, your mom's flight is on Tuesday at 5 p.m." That's something that Siri is nowhere near to doing right now. Because like I said, I tested her out, did a pretty comprehensive test actually, and it turns out she's still as bad as previous Siri was. And now with the lawsuit, we actually see that it isn't something that they just under-delivered, it's something that they didn't deliver at all. They just never rolled it out to people. Another feature that I honestly didn't even know they had until my girlfriend ended up buying the same iPhone 16 was the waitlist requirement, which makes no sense whatsoever because you're already paying $1,000+ for an iPhone, and for you to have to wait after paying that amount of money to get the software when there's already phones out there that have it makes no sense. When I first saw it, I was completely stunned, and I honestly didn't even know how it was possible that I bought an iPhone 16 just 2 weeks before she did, and I had Apple Intelligence, yet she didn't. Honestly, the only thing Apple really did deliver on with Apple Intelligence was the sort of light up gimmick that they added now for the new rebranded Siri, which again looks great, but it'd be even better if we could have the actual aesthetics with the software updates instead of just a new aesthetic which changes absolutely nothing from the previous models. So obviously with all of the backlash and hate that Apple is getting, we would have expected an Apple official response by now, but there hasn't been one. They haven't come out publicly saying anything as of April 21st, 2025. If they do in the coming days, well, I'm not sure, obviously, but if they do, I'll make a video on it letting you guys know. But for now, they haven't said anything. What they have done, though, is two sort of small changes. The first one being a marketing change. They were saying previously, hello, Apple Intelligence. That's what they were saying. That's how they were putting it. That's what they said that the iPhone 16 was going to bring. They were saying it was hello, Apple Intelligence, because they were supposed to give us the new Apple Intelligence. And obviously, it turns out they never did. Well, it turns out they've actually rebranded the Hello Apple Intelligence to Built for Apple Intelligence, which obviously a play on words now, because they're saying that the iPhone 16 was built to handle Apple Intelligence, but it doesn't have it yet. So obviously they're being sneaky with it. They know what they're doing, but we also know what that means. And at the end of the day, Apple is still acknowledging that the iPhone 16 doesn't have Apple Intelligence, which is good, but they're still marketing it kind of similarly. But at least a change is a change, and it means they know what's happening and they know what they did wrong. Now, the second change Apple made is a less publicized one, since it was kind of just a staff change, but it does tell us a lot about how Apple are handling the situation. Basically, what they did is that John Giannandrea before was the head of AI. He was the person at Apple that was handling the Apple Intelligence side of things. Now it turns out he has been moved from that spot and Mike Rockwell came in. Mike Rockwell has been the head of the Vision Pro department for some time now. Now, what exactly the Vision Pro department has to do here with Apple Intelligence, I'm not entirely sure, but this at least shows us that Apple did want to release the Apple Intelligence with their iPhone 16s, and the fact that they didn't could maybe put some weight on John's shoulders. I'm not exactly sure there. Obviously, those are just things about how Apple works, but that's pretty much it. So at least we can see that they're making some changes. They're acknowledging what has been done, but still, it doesn't take away from the fact that people paid $1,000 to receive a few features here and there, and now they aren't. There's even some things that have been delayed until 2026. Which again, if you paid $1,000 for a product and you got it, let's say in April this month or in March last month, you're not going to want to wait 8, 12, or even 16 or 2 years or however many months to receive features that you just paid for. So I think the lawsuit is completely valid. And now, honestly, we just have to wait to see what Apple ends up answering with. I honestly don't know how all of this even happened. I mean, you have to keep in mind, Apple is one of the biggest companies on earth, if not the biggest one. You can't just go out there and promise your customers and clients certain features when you know they're not even going to be ready. Especially being such a big, open, public company, they should have known that there was going to be some backlash. So the fact that they hadn't addressed it at all honestly makes no sense to me. I do think with time, they're going to end up delivering everything they said they would, but that's not the point here. The point is that they promised we would all have it by now or even months ago, and we still don't. So there's a big issue there because they promised us something and they're under delivering it. So what are we supposed to do with the $1,000-something that we paid for these brand new phones, expecting something and just not receiving it? Like I said previously, I'll keep you guys updated on what ends up happening and how the lawsuit continues to develop. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.